unfortunate incident. A 27-year-old newlywed woman, Ridhanya, ended her life in Tamil Nadu after months of dowry harassment, despite her family giving 300 sovereigns of gold and an SUV to her husband. Her in-laws, Veera, demanded 200 more sovereigns, which is almost 3 kg of gold, and that led to continued emotional abuse. She was married in April this year, and she came back home just 15 days after marriage, but her father told her that, you have to adjust. This is marriage. In fact, he is now regretting that act of his, and he's saying that I did not understand how serious this was. Now, this is not an isolated incident. It's tragically common in India, where societal pressures, material greed, and lax enforcement laws often fuel a toxic culture of dowry demands. But the sad part is we often talk about misuse of dowry laws, but then what is happening in this country is also deaths that we need to talk about.
Absolutely, and it's an extremely cruel social reality, one that is that really needs to be addressed at a societal level. There is no shortage of laws. Remember, what we face is under-reporting, family pressure, fear of social stigma, or lack of legal awareness. And that was even amongst the educated classes, the affluent classes. There are slow courts, overabundance, overburdens on the judiciary, means years of delays. There's, of course, the misuse debate as well. And that's a serious other aspect as well in that bit. Allegations of misuse of Section 498A have led to dilution of police powers, weakening genuine cases. And there is, of course, lack of victim support, few shelters, limited counseling, minimal state-run aid centers as well. The multiple systems and structures that's needed perhaps to fight this at a societal level, and at the same time not allow misuse of it.
Absolutely, Veera, which is why a lot of women don't want to report dowry cases, because they feel that this will subside soon, and they sustain that kind of pressure, they survive those things. But unfortunately, the big question that we ask today is also, why has the practice of dowry persisted despite it being legally banned since 1961? There have been numerous laws that have come into place since then. We talk about misuse of dowry laws, but there are women dying every day, and we talk about the misuse, but the practice still remains prevalent, and this is a practice that has taken the lives of many young women. Lalita Kumaramangalam, who's a former chairperson for National Commission for Women, joins us. We also have Charlene Maria Lawrence, who's an author and Dalit right activist. We have Dr. Ranjana Kumari, who's the former chairperson of NCW. We also have women activist Brinda Adige joining us now. Charlene Maria, I remember this debate that I saw you on TV, and that was to do with dowry, that was to do with, marriages and the kind of stuff that families often give women, their daughters, specifically under pressures. Has anything changed in Tamil Nadu, and how do you look at the recent case that has happened in Tamil Nadu?
Let me break this to you, because Tamil Nadu sounds very progressive, in domestic and political spaces, but Tamil Nadu is not that progressive. And dowry death is something which is not a new concept. It's been there for a long time, and it has not been noticed. It has not been monitored. There was no action taken, and that's the reason a lot of young women are ending their lives right now. While we are speaking today, there's been another death near Chennai, where another woman, she's committed suicide over 1 sovereign of gold dowry. They asked for 5 sovereign, they gave only 4. She ended her life in just 4 days of her marriage. Now, the thing is that with the dowry system is Tamil Nadu, as you can see, why I always talk about, the caste system is because the caste and dowry both are very interconnected. And in Tamil Nadu, the west is the Kongu belt, as they say. The Kongu belt, where most of the particular caste, there is this dominant caste, Kongu Velalar Gaundars. So they are known for giving a lot of dowry, which is like more than minimum 100 and maximum to 500 sovereigns, house, land, and things like that. This belt is also known for honor killing, and this belt is also known for dowry. So you have to interconnect everything and see. Right. Now, what you can see is that even the girls, if they do not have freedom to remarry, they do not have the freedom to break the marriage or to even, utter the word divorce. I'm from Chennai, working class. I've been a victim and survivor of domestic violence, caste-based violence, and dowry harassment. Right. But it was easier for me to break it, to come out of it. Right. But there are numerous women, 90% of Tamil Nadu's women belonging to, a dominant caste, especially from the Congo belt, who cannot go back to their family. This girl was, you would have listened to
Right,
the
so
audio,
there's
right?
no family support, Shalin. That's a very important point. Lalita Kumaramangalam, that, taking off from the same point that Shalin also mentioned, the sad part is this woman came back home 15 days after marriage. She told her parents, I cannot take this. These people are abusing me, and I don't want to live with them, and this is what is happening. But the father said, this is time for you to adjust, and this is marital life, and today he's regretting what he said. How do families even look at daughters who come back from marriages, and what is your advice to families? Because no counseling is going to help so many families, and this is such a societal aspect. How do you propose we deal with this?
One of the biggest deterrents to patriarchy actually in practice decreasing in this country is the media. I'm not talking so much about the print media, or rather the newsprint media, but I'm talking about the serials that we see in every language, the wretched serials we see in every language in this country. Tamil,
Yes.
Malayalam, Kannada, Bengali,
Absolutely.
Hindi, Punjabi, whatever, every serial, almost 90% of them, from some of the biggest producers. The irony is that are women themselves, where they are constantly showing that women must be obedient, women must be this. She may be a PhD in nuclear physics, but she has to be an obedient wife, she has to do this, she has to cook, clean, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
This has to be controlled. I'm sorry, I know it's a democracy. Many people will jump down my throat. But you know how many young minds and old minds, middle-aged minds, whatever, how many people are influenced by social media?
I think
One.
you're making
and two, the police in
a
this country has to grow a spine, and politicians should stop interfering when it comes to violence against women, all forms of violence.
you're making
I
an
don't think this is restricted to one caste. Across the board, the Congo belt is very rich, very, very rich, but it's also very, very poor in many ways. You have a lot of SC, ST there. Yeah, the Gaundars are very rich. There are Chettiars, there are all sort of big castes there. Everybody is giving dowry. It's not just the rich, poor, rich, whatever. Customarily in India, dowry has to go. We've managed to bring up the age of marriage and all of that, but social customs, how much can they be policed?
I think you're
However,
making an
the
extremely
police
important
must-
you're making an extremely important point in terms of the stereotype that's created of a woman who is able to take the harassment, survive it, and keep the family together, which is perhaps the genesis of this all. That you are associated, Dr. Ranjana Kumar,
a woman needs an enormous amount of courage to be able to face
Dr.
that
Ranjana
and take
Kumar,
it on.
this is seriously an issue. When, even amongst progressive families, there is a sense that the woman has to tolerate whatever goes through in the in-laws house and survive the marriage, and the marriage has to depend on the fact that the woman has to make it work.
Well, in the 80s, when I wrote the first book called Brides Are Not for Burning, 29 cases of death I studied. And basically, parents who give, they don't want to give share in property to the girls, and that is why they will give gold, they will give all kinds of car, apartments, whatever they give, depending on the level, even at the level of poorest of the poor, they will give a gold chain or a motorcycle or a bicycle. I think this giving itself has to stop. Parents will have to invest in girls' education. They should give them a share in the property, and also that they should never ever marry their daughters to these kind of greedy people who demand gold. I mean, this is really a tradition which needs to stop immediately. Nobody worth influence in society except for we women who've been fighting for against dowry and getting targeted for doing that. Except for us, nobody. Have you heard any politician saying that this is the practice which should be stopped?
Absolutely. In fact, politicians and bureaucrats tend to demand and give a lot of dowry.
And there is a certain normalization, Veera, that happens because these days people say that we are not going to demand, but if they give something for the girl, for the daughter,
what are we to
do with this? And there are also people saying that yes, it's the daughter's right, but we are not really, like ma'am also said, Ranjana Kumari, that we need to invest in the education of our daughters, ensuring that they become financially independent, not just when it comes to money, but even mentally. They know that they shouldn't be subjugated. Brinda Adige, when it comes to out-of-the-box solutions, I was reading at this article where Malappuram University looked at getting all students to sign this document that we are not going to ask for dowry, we are not going to give any form of dowry. Now, I know that this looks like an outlandish idea, but what kind of awareness do you think the society needs to tackle something like this?
That awareness is good. I think they must get those kind of undertakings even from the parents, because the parents are the ones who are pressurized. And let us place this on record. We are a deeply patriarchal society, and dowry giving and taking has both religious as well as social sanctions. And there is a lot of talk. There is even a list made of what is being given, what is being taken. And in such a situation, getting only an undertaking is not enough. I also want to second Dr. Lalita's statement of these various TV serials and movies that continuously reiterate this nonsensical thing of dowry being given and harassment, not only from the in-laws, but also from the older daughter-in-laws and the others. How is it that our censor board allows it? A. B. Why is it that our courts look at this as saying they gave it in the interest of the daughter, so they cannot be punished? So neither of them are punished. Yeah. So the dowry law that we have is just a hoodwink eyewash. Because you have to have a law like this, let's have it. But nobody must be penalized under this law. And continuously saying that women are misusing 498. How is it that lawyers and judges have not yet understood 498A is cruelty in marriage and dowry is only second to it? It is not a dowry harassment section alone. So these kind of understandings must go across to everybody. A. B. Look at some of our textbooks in the north of India, where they have actually allowed, apologetically allowed, saying dowry is given by women who are dark, who are short, who are fat. So if the textbooks have something like this, where are we going to wipe it out? We are, of course, talking about Tamil Nadu and South India today. But let us be very clear. Leaders, especially religious leaders and politicians, have nothing to say. They do not condemn something like this.
No, I think
the onus on them and on us as communities.
You made a very, very important point. All of you have made fascinating, important points. I just want the last 30 seconds, and to you, Lata Kumaramangalam, ma'am, you know, there's also the question of misuse of some of these laws. They are stringent, but there's also the question of misuse. How do we balance the two? Because this is an extreme priority, while we cannot ignore the other side of it as well.
I don't think it's very difficult. You know, when even one complaint is given saying that women are misusing laws, therefore the law has to be watered down, we must realize that we live in such a deeply patriarchal society that whether it is the courts or whether it is lawyers, they too somewhere in their heads believe that, oh, men also need protection. I'm not saying the law should be misused, but perhaps, I sound cynical. Laws are misused. That doesn't mean that the original law be watered down, which is exactly what has happened.
Absolutely.
Men should also not be harassed. I'm not saying that the law, it's correct for any woman to misuse the law.
Right.
But the vast majority, more than 90%, is the men misusing the law and women losing their lives. You know, there's so much publicity and so much unity amongst men. And there's so little unity or any support from girls like this, from their own friends, families, from other women. Except, as Ranjana ji said, activists like us who go out on a limb to try and say this. Nobody else really. They will nod their head and say, yes,
it's a very important point, ma'am, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, completely out of time. What we understand with every reminder of a dowry death is that this is not a relic of the past, Veera. It's a present, chilling reality. Every statistic hides a silenced woman, a grieving family, and a justice system, and a father who shouldn't have said that, you know, you should have a justice.
And I don't think it's restricted to one social stereotype or another. It's an Indian reality across the board. Educated, affluent, progressive families, even they fall for this trap several times, and women do tend to be the victims at the end of the day. Some suffer silence, others speak out, and then the tragic cases that come out in public and media.
Absolutely. This is something we'll keep tracking for you.